Okay, I'm going to talk about, say you're working on this one room like this. You know, you buy your bucket of mud, and that's pretty stiff. You know, you can't really work right out of the bucket. You got to mix a little bit of water in it, and a lot of drywall is consistency of your mud. So a little tip I can give you is that, you know, I use a paddle and a drill, half-inch drill. And what I'm going to do is, since this is fresh mud, I'm going to just mix it right in the bucket. And then, since I'm going to be doing some taping along the edges, I want my mud a little loose. So instead of mixing the whole bucket loose, where I can't really use the rest of it, I look at it as layers of mixing. So once I get this mixed up thick the way it is, I'll mix in a little bit of water and just mix the top couple inches of the mud, you know what I mean, or just the top little layer, so I can do my taping, and then on my next process I can thicken it up a little bit. I can have it a little thick, so that way you're not beating a dead horse, you know what I'm saying? You got if it's a small job like this, you're going to have one bucket of mud, a couple, maybe 2 buckets of mud, and that'll be it, you know what I mean? Whole houses are a different thing. You can have different buckets for different jobs in a whole house if you're working on it. Just a little bit of water. And another tip I can give you is a couple of them. Keep your hand tools clean. Keep a bucket of water right next to you. That way you can keep everything clean, because that's going to mess with you. If you have little dry particles of mud building up on your knife or your pen, it's going to translate into your work. And if you're constantly fighting that, it's really hard to get ahead, because, you know, the less scratches you can make, the more accurate you are, the less sanding you'll have to do, basically. And I think that's why a lot of people hate drywall, because of the sanding. And after years of doing this, I can get away with pretty minimal, but you know, there's no way to really get her flat unless you sand, you know what I mean? Another thing is, drywall is just the illusion of flat. You know what I mean? So, okay, I wiped down my bucket. I'm going to put the lid back on it. Keep this clean. What you can also do is take a small chunk of sheetrock and cover this up while you're working, so it doesn't end up drying in there. And in the Arizona, we used to actually top it off. We would just put a little bit of water on top so things wouldn't dry up. You got to keep it clean, and it'll benefit you in the long run. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and tape this angle. These little tips and tricks. First thing, we got our mud. We've already kind of pre-cut our pieces of angle tape. A good taper's always got a 6. And just load it up. And sometimes you can kind of feather your ends a little if you need to. And another thing you always kind of want to do, turn your 6 down here, clean it out. really bad. Now this stuff's cheap, so use it. Don't skimp out on it. You want to stuff it in that angle all the way. And when I did production work, we had tools to do this kind of stuff. Bazookas, and we had rollers and lasers. That way you could get a whole house done in a reasonable amount of time. They're very expensive. You have to be doing a lot of it to have them. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to put that rip side on the top so that it will disappear. We stick it in that angle, nice and sharp. Don't worry about that end, it's a little long. You want it nice and tight in here. When you're wiping them down, you want them nice and square. And what you don't want is what we call a blister, and that's when you don't have mud underneath that tape. And when you go to paint, it'll just be like a bubble, and then it'll look upright. And wipe it nice and tight. Nice and square in the corners. Nice and tight. You don't want to do it so tight that you're pulling all the mud out of it. Now, let me show you what I was talking about earlier. The sponge in this business is your friend. And patchwork, you use a lot of hot mud, which is a fast drying compound. And that really will help you. But by doing this, I alleviate all the chatter marks from this texture, and it slicks it out a little bit, you know. I'll probably still have to come back over here and give this some love, but at least we have a good first coat or a tape with good fill in there. And what I will do, this angle cut, stick my 6 in there, pull her down. Now, when you do this, you want to make sure that you give it plenty of time to dry before you start coating it again. And basically repeat. I'm running out of room on my phone, I think. Okay, out for now. In production work, or basically, you know, any job, you need to, speed is a big factor in it. You know, the more you get done, the more you make sometimes, or sometimes you're just expected to get a certain amount done. And anyway, when you're on a ladder, you want to limit your moves to, you know, you want to limit them to as small as you can. So in this corner, I'm going to be doing this angle, and since it's longer than what I can reach from this ladder, I'll just do what I can reach and let the rest hang. So, another thing about drywall, if you're new to it, expect to be covered in it. It takes years to be able to do this without dropping it all over the place and slapping it, you know, getting it stuck in your ear, because it will happen. And a lot of the apprentices, when they started their descent into journeymanhood, spend a lot of time in closets. That's where you break them in at. Can't hurt a closet too bad. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to put that ripped edge on the top. I'm going to start over in this corner, stuff it up in there real good. I'm going to get as much as I can reach. And you can only do this with sometimes with only just a little bit hanging, you know? Because if it's too long, then the weight of it will make it fall. I'm going to get it stuck up there. Wipe it down nice and square. See that? See how much fill is going on in there? You got a factory edge right there. We got cracking right here. And I think, like I said, I think somebody used mesh tape on some of this, and I don't believe they even took care of the angles, to be honest with you. I think they just put caulking in it. One of the things out here where I live that I've noticed is like pulling permits for remodel jobs. I mean, it's a pain in the butt and everything, but it kind of helps everybody, you know. I've been at this for years, and the guys that are known as hacks, and their name will go farther than they will. Guys that know what they're doing don't really like those type of people. Gives us a bad name. A lot of us can do the work, do it right, and still make money. Okay. By sponging this top piece, really makes it disappear. And then while you're up there, hit any nails or cracks or anything else you see.